Hey, Tony and Corey here, your Weekend Warriors, and as you can see, we're back in the Weekend Warriors workshop. Tony, last week we got this heavy-duty workbench done, and the studio's looking really good, but I don't think it looks perfect.
Well, I feel like that a really good workshop is never complete. There's so much stuff that needs to get done. You're always thinking of a new project, something to build, something to make your space more efficient. You're always getting new tools, and you have to make room for your new tools. But in this case, it's even more superficial than that. This back wall is hideous.
It is hideous.
We actually painted a little bit in here, the perimeter walls, but we left this space unpainted because we had a plan for it.
That's right. So today, we're putting up some tongue and groove pine. All right, Tony, last week we went to the Habitat for Humanity and we found this really cool box, or I guess bundle, of tongue and groove pine. And this piece of like 1/2x4. You thought it was really cool, it's blue. So we wanted to put this on the back wall of the workshop. It looks really good except for that. So the tongue and groove pine that we found, it's like a 1/4 inch, 5/16 thick. And it's rough sawn on one side and smooth on the other. It's end matched. End matching means that it is tongue and groove on all sides. So as you put it together, it's tongue and groove there and tongue and groove on the ends. And it looks really good. You don't have to land on a stud. So this stuff is really cool find. It's interesting though, Tony, this actually has this blue color to it. This is called blue stained pine. You know where that gets its name?
I don't.
Blue stained pine, and I sold this to a customer years and years ago, and I had no idea what it was either. But I learned then that it's actually made by a fungus that gets injected into the wood from a pine beetle, and it infects, you know, lodgepole pine, Douglas fir, all kinds of different trees. But when the pine beetle lands and starts chewing on the tree, it can transfer that fungus into the wood. So the fungus makes the wood edible for the pine beetle, in turn giving it this really cool pine blue color. So some people call it beetle kill pine, blue stain pine, blue and buggy pine. But it's all the same. And what happens is this infects trees and it kills them. So by using blue stained pine, we're actually helping the environment by getting rid of those trees and using it for really cool projects. And I think it looks awesome.
Well, it's definitely got a unique look, and it actually has got quite a bit of traction. People actually come looking for this product, so it's popular.
Yeah, it's a really good find at the Habitat for Humanity Restore. So
yeah.
Let's get started. You know, Tony, there are a lot of different lengths in this bundle. I've noticed there's kind of a random tally. There's short ones like this, even shorter ones here. And that's something that you should probably keep in mind if you're ever doing a project like this at your own home. When you walk into a lumber yard and order material, it's pretty rare that you can order all of the same lengths. Some people come in and say, I have a 14-foot tall wall. I want all 14 footers. It's just not gonna happen. Most solid sawn material like this, it's just gonna come random and you're gonna have seams. So you gotta plan for that. Unless it's engineered like finger jointed primed cedar or something, then you can get all 20s.
Yeah,
so
it's important because this product specifically is made just for that. It doesn't matter how long or short they are. They all go together the same way because they're end matched. But you will have fewer longs usually and more shorts. So when you think about how many courses you have on the wall, you want to space out your longs so that you don't end up with them together, and use them accordingly so that it all comes out to look like a very random pattern. You want to keep your seams apart as much as possible.
Right. And I usually only worry about that when I go on vacation. That's when I want more shorts.
More shorts.
All right, so first thing we need to do is start putting these up on the wall. I think I want to do the back side of this. It comes in two different sides, smooth with a V-groove and rough sawn with a straight edge. and I like the rough look. What about you?
I like the nickel gap better than the beveled V-groove, yeah.
All right, let's go that route. So let's clean off this back bench. Here. We're gonna have a piece in the middle. I'm gonna cut this down. I'm gonna go in there like that.
Got it.
So we've put ourselves into a dilemma. So we rushed right into this and started putting this up, and we made kind of a miscalculation. Well, we didn't do a calculation at all. That was the problem. Yeah. So what's happening is we put these pieces up and we get to the bottom of this cabinet, and we intend on putting the T&G all the way to the top of the cabinets. But now that we've gotten to here, we need to rip a piece that fits under each cabinet. And so we're gonna be left with a rip against a rip. What we should have done was laid these out on our workbench, took our measurement, and ripped the very first starter piece. Then we would have a tongue and a groove across the whole top, and we would just keep rolling. So remember that when you're doing your project.
Yeah, this also applies if you were putting backsplash up in the kitchen, like tile, for example. If you get to the bottom of your cabinets and the tile that you've chosen doesn't end at a perfect 18, which is pretty common distance between the bottom of the cabinet and your countertop, then you're gonna end up having to cut all of the tiles across the top, and putting them in that space underneath the cabinet is a tight spot to work. It's harder.
Yeah.
Starting with the right course, if you did the math ahead of time, start with the right cut course, and then finish at the top of the cabinet with full tiles. It looks better in my opinion as well, and it's easier to do.
All right, so we need to rip some pieces. So here's one thing. What are you doing here?
I'm finding 7 3/4 pieces that would keep this whole piece from being wasted because they're all damaged.
Nice. Well, Tony, this turned out pretty good, but I think we learned a couple things. We made a couple mistakes in this project. The first one being we should have ripped our starter row. That would have left us a little easier job going up. And the second one, Tony actually just brought to my attention, and now it's going to haunt me for the rest of my life.
Yeah, well, when we started cutting our small pieces, and you'll be able to see it right here, we cut one long piece into a bunch of small pieces, and what happens when you have a variegated look, you end up with blotches of color. So it looks like we've got a block of orange, and then we've got a block of lighter color, and on this side you can see we have that blue streak at the top of multiple pieces going up because we cut them from the same piece. It's hard to be conscious of the variation in color on the material when you're working with it, but it becomes glaringly obvious when you finish the project. So try to cut your smaller pieces out of multiple pieces in the pack. Be conscious of the colors so that you don't end up grouping a bunch together in one spot. Here, one last thing you mentioned about the nailing pattern. We went ahead and nailed right through the face, and it gives it more of a rustic look, I think, which is really what we're going for. But if you were doing something that was a little more finished, you can hide those fasteners.
Yeah, you can nail with a hidden fastener look. If you nailed through the tongue on the very edge of the board with probably a smaller nail, like a brad nail or even a pin nail. This is a 16 gauge finish nail that we're using, so the diameter is pretty big. So it would probably blow the tongue right off of this, honestly. So
you can get an 18 gauge brad nail or even a 23 gauge pin nail, which would work a lot better.
That would be ideal for a product this thin. So anyway, we learned a lot. We hope you did too. Thanks so much for watching. This has been another episode of Your Weekend Warriors.
We'll see you next time.
On that board there.